The galaxy had rehearsed this moment for millennia. First contact was never a mystery, only a ritual. A young species emerged from its cradle, stumbled into faster-than-light travel, and was met by the elder powers who already owned the stars. The script never changed. The newcomers arrived hopeful, unarmed, desperate to be acknowledged. The elders listened, smiled in their own ways, and offered protection in exchange for obedience. It was not cruelty. It was efficiency. Civilization, the galaxy believed, required hierarchy. Humanity did not follow the script. When the Sol delegation crossed the boundary into mapped space, there was no broadcast of triumph, no frantic greeting, no symbolic fleet of ceremonial ships. One vessel arrived, small by interstellar standards, holding position at the edge of jurisdiction like it was waiting for permission that never came. The silence unsettled the observers. New species always spoke too much. Humans spoke only when spoken to. The Galactic Concordance reviewed humanity's data with practiced indifference. A single world of origin, limited colonial spread, recent mastery of jump physics. No history of interstellar war. No record of subjugating another sentient species. Their transmissions were precise, emotionally flat, devoid of reverence. Interpreters flagged the tone as naive restraint. Analysts labeled it cultural immaturity. Admirals saw vulnerability. The consensus formed quickly. Humanity would be folded into the concordance within the century. Diplomatic envoys were dispatched, carrying the standard welcome, a catalog of laws written by conquerors, a list of permitted technologies, a reminder of consequences for defiance. The message was delivered with ceremonial gravity, meant to impress and intimidate. Humanity listened without interruption. No counterarguments followed. No objections. The human representatives acknowledged receipt and requested time to review the terms. That request raised amusement across the council chambers. Time was always asked for. Time was always wasted. While humanity deliberated, concordance fleets repositioned, not to threaten, but to be visible. Presence was the oldest language of power. Satellites adjusted their lenses, capturing images of human cities, oceans, populations. Billions of fragile lives displayed as leverage, as reassurance that escalation would never be necessary. Humanity's response arrived precisely when promised. The language was formal, respectful, almost austere. They thanked the concordance for the introduction. They expressed interest in peaceful coexistence. They declined the terms of integration. There was no accusation, no moral grandstanding, just refusal. The reaction was immediate disbelief, followed by irritation. Refusal implied misunderstanding. The envoys reiterated the offer, this time emphasizing enforcement. Humanity listened again. No visible change in posture. No elevated heart rates detected. The interpreters struggled with the absence of fear. The council concluded what councils always concluded when patience ran thin. Humanity was stalling. Humanity did not yet understand its position. A demonstration was authorized. Trade lanes near Sol were restricted. Automated patrols drifted closer to human space. Not an attack, merely a lesson. Still no response. Human channels remained open, calm, waiting. In the absence of submission, assumptions hardened into certainty. A species that refused to kneel must be ignorant of consequence. The concordance prepared to end the talks, confident that pressure would succeed where words had failed. Diplomacy, after all, was a courtesy extended to the week before force was applied. No one in the chamber asked the simplest question. Why a species so young, so quiet, and so composed had arrived alone, and why it had not brought anything else with it? The concordance mistook silence for hesitation. With patience exhausted, they shifted tone, replacing courtesy with clarity. Humanity was informed that refusal was not a position, merely a phase. Compliance would be scheduled. Integration fleets would arrive to supervise the transition. Resource audits were already underway. This was not framed as a threat, but as inevitability, the kind that had ended 1,000 civilizations without a single shot fired. Humanity replied within minutes. The transmission was brief and meticulously structured. They acknowledged the Concordance's authority claims. They rejected them. They stated, plainly, that no external governance would be accepted, no patrols permitted, no restrictions enforced within human-controlled space. The message ended with a request: cease forward movements and restore restricted trade corridors. Nothing more. Laughter echoed across council channels. The request was denied. Instead, a deadline was issued. Humanity was given one rotation of its homeworld to reconsider. After that, the Concordance would act in accordance with precedent. Enforcement vessels adjusted course, their movement slow and visible, designed to be felt rather than feared. Humanity did not respond immediately. Analysts interpreted the delay as internal conflict. Perhaps factions were arguing. Perhaps fear had finally set in. That assumption was reinforced when no defensive mobilization was detected. No fleets surged from Sol. No planetary shields flared. Humanity appeared to be doing nothing at all. When the response came, it was not addressed to the Council, but to every registered observer species simultaneously. Humanity requested that all neutral parties withdraw assets from the contested region. Civilian traffic was advised to reroute. Scientific platforms were urged to disengage. The wording was careful, almost polite, but the implication rippled outward instantly. The Concordance objected. Humanity was reminded it had no authority to issue regional advisories. The response came back immediately, as if it had been waiting in queue. Humanity clarified that the advisory was not an order, merely a courtesy. It was being issued because continued proximity might pose risks to noncombatants. That phrasing caused unease. The Council demanded explanation. Humanity declined. They repeated the advisory, this time with coordinates and timestamps. Several neutral powers quietly complied, unwilling to gamble on ignorance. Others stayed, confident the Concordance would enforce silence as it always had. The deadline expired. Concordance enforcement vessels crossed the outer boundary of Sol's claimed exclusion zone. Weapons remained cold. Their intent was symbolic, a final assertion of dominance. The moment the boundary was breached, every human diplomatic channel went dark except one. The final transmission was routed directly to the Council core. No encryption. No delay. A single voice, calm and unmodulated, delivered a statement stripped of emotion. Humanity informed the Concordance that negotiations had concluded. Diplomatic protocols were suspended. All further incursions would be interpreted as hostile acts under human-defined terms. This was not framed as a warning. It was described as a transition. The Council attempted to respond. Their signal was acknowledged, but not accepted. For the first time in recorded Concordance history, a lesser species had unilaterally closed diplomatic channels while remaining perfectly visible. Sensors across the region began to register anomalies. Not weapons fire. Not fleet movement. Space itself behaved incorrectly. Distances fluctuated by fractions that defied known models. Background radiation spiked and vanished. Long-range scans returned empty data where something massive should have been. Admirals demanded reports. Scientists argued. Envoys shouted over one another, insisting this was a bluff, a final performance meant to extract concessions. Humanity had no history of escalation. Humanity had no allies. Humanity had no fleet. Then a shadow appeared on the edge of detection, vast enough to silence the chamber. Not approaching. Already there. Diplomacy had not failed. It had been concluded precisely when humanity decided talking was no longer necessary. Space did not announce the arrival. There was no flash, no surge of energy, no dramatic rupture. One moment the region beyond the Concordance fleet was empty, the next it was not. Instruments struggled to reconcile the change. Mass readings spiked beyond calibrated limits, then stabilized as if the universe itself had adjusted its expectations. Something enormous occupied the coordinates humanity had quietly cleared. Visual feeds resolved first. A structure eclipsed stars without emitting light of its own, its surface matte and uneven, shaped less like a vessel and more like a moving continent. It dwarfed the enforcement armada to the point that individual ships vanished against its silhouette. No markings identified allegiance. No exhaust betrayed propulsion. It simply existed, suspended with unnatural precision. Classification systems failed immediately. The object exceeded every known category. It was not a carrier, not a fortress, not a mobile station. Estimates varied wildly before being abandoned altogether. The term warship felt insufficient, yet nothing else applied. Its presence distorted sensor returns, bending range calculations, and scrambling threat projections. Targeting arrays refused to lock, not due to countermeasures, but because the ship's geometry made no consistent sense. Panic did not erupt at once. Shock came first. Silence followed. Veteran commanders stared at data streams that contradicted centuries of naval doctrine. One vessel could not be that large. One vessel could not exert that level of spatial influence. Yet it did, effortlessly, without maneuvering or display. Human channels reopened. The voice was the same as before, steady and precise. Humanity identified the object as a Titan-class strategic asset. The designation carried no pride, no menace. It was delivered as one might name a tool. The Titan had not been deployed in response to aggression, they explained, but to proximity. It had been present long before the deadline expired, held beyond perception until observation became necessary. Questions flooded the channel. None were answered. Humanity offered only clarification. The Titan was not armed in the conventional sense. It did not require escorts. It was autonomous but not independent. It was not there to conquer territory or dismantle fleets. Its purpose was singular, enforcement of human-defined boundaries. As if to emphasize the point, the Titan adjusted position by a margin so small it barely registered. The effect was immediate. Concordance ships found their inertial references altered. Formation integrity collapsed as vessels drifted relative to one another, engines compensating for forces that should not exist. There was no damage, no explosions, just sudden helplessness. Weapon systems remained offline by human design. The Titan did not target. It did not threaten. It demonstrated. Space itself behaved differently within its influence, obeying rules written by engineers who had assumed negotiation might fail. Admirals ordered a withdrawal. Commands lagged. Navigation solutions refused to converge. The Titan was not blocking escape. It was redefining movement. Only when humanity permitted did the distortion ease, restoring familiar physics as casually as it had removed them. The message that followed was brief. Humanity stated that the Titan would remain until all foreign military assets exited the exclusion zone. Compliance would restore full functionality. Resistance would not be met with retaliation, only continued limitation. The distinction mattered to humans. One by one, Concordance vessels regained control and retreated, suddenly aware that survival had never been in question. Supremacy had been. The Titan did not pursue. It did not power down. It waited, vast and patient, a monument to preparation rather than impulse. The galaxy understood then that humanity had not arrived to negotiate strength. It had arrived having already settled the matter. The Concordance fleets had expected a confrontation, yet none came. No warning salvo, no initial strike. Only the Titan remained, a presence so immense that its silence carried the weight of inevitability. Human engineers had designed it for precision, not spectacle, for control rather than chaos. The ship did not hunt. It did not destroy indiscriminately. It demonstrated outcomes, reshaping the battlefield without firing a shot. Alien commanders attempted intimidation. Squadrons advanced in formation, signaling readiness, while electronic countermeasures engaged to test Titan systems. Sensors were overloaded with false targets, decoys, and simulations of massive armaments. The Titan ignored all of it. Its reaction was measured, deliberate, instantaneous. It neutralized interference with surgical exactness, isolating active threats and rendering the rest irrelevant. No hulls were breached. No lives lost. Systems simply became non-functional. The scale of human engineering stunned even veteran analysts. Fleets that had once intimidated entire sectors were immobilized by a single craft. Communications collapsed. Power matrices shorted. Navigation relays failed. The Concordance had built its confidence on numbers, on coordinated overwhelm. Humanity proved that quantity was meaningless when precision was absolute. A single Titan dictated terms with invisible authority. Yet there was no malice. Every action was calculated to demonstrate consequence without cruelty. Civilian vessels were unaffected. Habitable zones remained intact. The Titan functioned like a scalpel, removing only the variables that had threatened violation of human-defined space. Alien crews watched their most advanced fleets become irrelevant, not by destruction, but by impossibility. Every attempt to maneuver or fire was preemptively countered, rendering strategy itself obsolete. The psychological impact was immediate. Panic spread faster than technology could fail. Commanders screamed over disrupted channels, trying to assert control, to coordinate, to rally. Orders became contradictions. Sensors returned impossible readings. Ships collided, not from attack, but from systemic failure induced by the Titan's presence. Cohesion unraveled. Fear became comprehension. Comprehension became awe. The realization hit simultaneously. Humans had not merely caught up, they had surpassed every expectation. Humanity remained unobserved in terms of direct engagement. No signals revealed their emotions, no fleets emerged from Seoul. All coordination came from the Titan itself. The world watched, realizing that the weapon was a proxy for a civilization, a single node representing millennia of preparation, thought, and restraint. The aliens recognized for the first time that humans had anticipated every possible escalation before it occurred. As fleets faltered, the Titan adjusted its influence subtly, demonstrating controlled withdrawal of effect. Systems partially recovered, granting the aliens the illusion of regained agency. They attempted to probe again, testing boundaries. The Titan responded identically, disarming threats before they could materialize, enforcing limits with invisible force. Humanity had not broken laws of war, they had redefined them. The Concordance's hubris dissolved. They had assumed fear, intimidation, and superior numbers would suffice to dictate compliance. Humanity had no intention of asserting domination. Instead, the demonstration was a single, undeniable statement. Attempts to coerce, threaten, or underestimate would fail before action could even begin. Deterrence had been encoded into the very physics of presence. Eventually, the Titan's field stabilized, holding all foreign assets at precise, predictable distances. No ship could advance without triggering containment protocols. No weapon could engage without automatic nullification. The Concordance had been frozen in space and perception. Silence followed the demonstrations, heavy and unbroken. Every decision-maker knew that human intervention was no longer optional, it was inevitable. Humanity did not shout, it did not fire, it had simply arrived fully prepared, leaving no room for doubt. The galaxy changed in the wake of humanity's demonstration. No fleet had been destroyed, no colonies occupied, yet every system understood a new truth. Humans operated on a level no one had predicted. Alien councils convened in panic, reassessing every protocol, every assumption, every species previously considered weak or insignificant. Reports flooded from every sector, describing vessels immobilized without damage, communication arrays disabled without attack, and fleets forced into submission purely by presence. The scale of preparation was unprecedented. What had been a small, young species was now a benchmark of deterrence, a standard by which all others would be measured. Political hierarchies collapsed almost overnight. The Concordance, once certain of its authority, became a fracturing body. Member states argued over responsibility, culpability, and future strategy. Some advocated immediate withdrawal from contested sectors. Others pushed for escalation, only to realize that the tools of conventional warfare were ineffective. Human dominance was not about numbers, nor about aggression. It was about control, foresight, and uncompromising readiness. Every projection of superiority the galaxy had relied upon evaporated under this new reality. Humanity's position was never expansionist. The Titan withdrew once compliance was achieved, leaving corridors and trade lanes intact. Civilian traffic resumed without obstruction. The act was deliberate, power demonstrated, not wielded. The galaxy absorbed the lesson with reluctant admiration. Humans had shown that victory need not be bloody, that control could be asserted without annihilation. This subtlety, almost invisible to those who expected spectacle, cemented a reputation that would echo for generations. The psychological imprint on alien civilizations was profound. Entire species recalculated risk. Fear replaced hubris. Plans for coercion or manipulation were shelved. Ambassadors, once confident in their dominance, became cautious observers. Every first contact protocol in development was rewritten. Humanity was no longer just another species. It had become a principle, a variable that could not be ignored. Military and political doctrines were adjusted to account for the possibility that humans would always operate several steps ahead, prepared for scenarios others had yet to imagine. History would record this moment not as a battle, nor as a conquest, but as a paradigm shift. Humans demonstrated that preparedness, precision, and intelligence could achieve results that fleets of warships could not. Entire sectors of the galaxy acknowledged a subtle, immutable power, the capacity to act decisively without chaos. Humanity had not sought to dominate, to conquer, or to humiliate. They had merely ensured survival, and in doing so, they had rewritten expectations. Legends began to form quickly. Transmission logs, once restricted to elite councils, were leaked, archived, and studied. Humanity's actions were interpreted as both cautionary tale and inspiration. A species underestimated for millennia had reshaped strategy across civilizations. Titan-class warships, previously regarded as mere machines, became symbols of human ingenuity, restraint, and authority. Observers spoke in hushed tones of humans as a species that could calculate the outcome of any engagement before it occurred, that could impose order without violence, and that understood the difference between power and recklessness. The long-term effect was strategic stability. Regions previously plagued by interstellar tension experienced de-escalation as every actor reconsidered priorities. Humans did not enforce compliance with terror, they did so with preparation. That distinction became foundational to interstellar policy. Future generations, both human and alien, would measure caution, respect, and negotiation against the benchmark set by Sol's first encounter. The galaxy learned that humans were not the species to be underestimated. Every calculation, every projection, and every assumption of weakness was invalidated. They had arrived alone, unarmed by convention, and left the universe permanently changed. Authority had not been taken, it had been demonstrated. Diplomacy had ended not with compromise, but with recognition. Every corner of space now understood that when humans decided the matter, the result was absolute, and nothing less would suffice.